minutes. The last couple have been around 7. But I'm going to read through this article. I have it in the description if you want to also read it yourself. I think it's a very enlightening and a good take on some of the stuff that's surrounding on the coronavirus. So check it out, and let's jump into episode number 3. All semblance of due process and the rule of law can quickly evaporate when powerful institutions advance interpretations of catastrophic events used to justify their own open-ended invocation of unlimited emergency measure powers. Crying out loud. It's a lot of words. Words. I think they get in the way sometimes. The well-documented examples of the misrepresentation and exploitation of the 9/11 debacle demonstrates well the severity of the current danger. The origins of the Wuhan coronavirus epidemic have yet to be adequately addressed and explained by a panel of genuinely independent investigators. That's true. We've been just being force-fed, and all of these different narratives, but just force-fed from the mainstream one narrative, right? The left wing is, oh my gosh, the world is falling. The right wing or the White House, everything's going to be just fine. But some of the things that don't make sense that are confusing all of us, like, well, that doesn't make sense that they're saying this. And then what about this over here? We bounce, at least I've bounced back and forth between, oh, it's nothing, it's just a big psyop, to, oh man, maybe it is something, to, oh man, what are they really going to pull? And I think that's by design. They know a lot of disinformation's out there, and they want to keep us off balance and confused a little bit. So, yeah. The Chinese ambassador to the United States, Chi Taiyangke, I didn't say that right, even almost, acknowledged on February 9th, hey, that was my birthday, on CBS Face the Nation, that there is no certainty about the origins of the COVID-19. When asked by CBS's Margaret Brennan where the virus came from, the Chinese ambassador responded, we still don't know yet. Bullshit, they knew at that time. Although media giants like the Washington Post have run interference to justify the claims of established authority in this fiasco, there is still a high level of uncertainty about the what COVID-19 is, where it came from, why it spread so quickly. What factors resulted in the genetic modification determining the biological structure of the coronavirus strain? What happened in the biological journey from SARS coronavirus to the coronavirus strain that triggered the epidemiological, I cannot say that word right now, bombshell starting in Wuhan? That's funny. Did the Chinese Communist government have a role in creating COVID-19 either purposely or inadvertently? What did the Chinese government know? When did its leadership know it? Such basic questions have yet to be objectively considered by a panel of genuinely independent experts, not beholden to any centers of established authority, funding, publicity, and political networking. The need to transcend all conflict of interest in the formal investigation of this matter must somehow be realized if objectivity is to prevail in the process of unearthing, organizing, and assessing the evidence. The primary objective of this process must be to bring out the truth. Not for the powers that be, though. That's the last thing they want, man. That's their enemy. Truth is their enemy. No matter how embarrassing such illuminations might be to the interests of entrenched power, a process must be initiated without any pandering to the political bias of institutions and individuals with much to protect, with major interest in determining the outcome of the investigations. One version of the events is that the contagion began when some mutated viral disease strain jumped from a bat or a snake into the biological workings of one or more humans. This animal-to-human leap is supposed to have taken place in the precincts of the Wuhan's open-air traditional food market where bats, snakes, cats, raccoons, fish, possums, and the like can be bought and sold. Dead, though, to be eaten, I think. Most of them are dead. A growing perception of disbelief is developing in the face of the idea that all of this mayhem started with a few people chomping down on some fatally infected critters purchased on an open-air market. In fact, this explanation is becoming the subject of much satire and ridicule, even as the horrifying nature of the unfolding of events is intensifying. Close that. Did I close that? Okay, I can't close that. In fact, this explanation is becoming the subject of much satire, and I already read that. Another possible source of the contagion is that the Wuhan National Biosafe Laboratory, one of China's most high-tech installations designed for biological research into the most deadly forms of viruses known to humankind. This research facility, with the top level 4 containment capacities, emerged from the expansion and elaboration of an older agency known as the Wuhan Institute of Virology. As shall be demonstrated, the Wuhan Institute of Virology is thought by some experts, including a prestigious group at the South China Technical University in Guangzhou, to be the probable source of the contaminant. As shall be demonstrated below, the Wuhan Institute of Virology and its outgrowth, the National Biosafety Laboratory, are thought by some to be integrated with more secretive sites where the military operations of China's alleged biological warfare program are centered. A focus on the kind of procedures that take place at the Wuhan Institute of Virology begs the question of whether an accidental viral escape from this agency forms the primary origin of the epidemic. Another possibility is that some sort of power play within China's ruling elite might have led to the decision to create and release a bioweapon in the heart of one of the most heavily populated zones on Earth. Yet another possibility is that the Wuhan coronavirus epidemic is part of some agenda of hybrid warfare by the U.S. government against China. The deep state U.S. government, I would like to notate there. Speculation surrounding this scenario emphasizes that hundreds of U.S. soldiers were in Wuhan in late October of 2019 for the World Military Games. As Mark Episcopos has argued in The National Interest, the theory that the U.S. government is behind the spread of the COVID-19 coronavirus has been well reported in some mainstream media venues in Russia. This rumor is also one that Chinese ambassador to the United States, Qin Tianake, I don't know, specifically referred to on CBS's Face the Nation when he fended off the allegations that China's biological warfare program was somehow implicated in the epidemic's origins. One of those interviewed on the subject is Igor Nikulin. Why do they have to have such messed up names when you're trying to read an article? Mr. Nikulin has argued Wuhan was chosen for the attack by the U.S. military officials because of the local presence of the Wuhan Institute of Virology offers the Pentagon and CIA a convenient cover story about the bio-experiments gone awry. If it turns out that the source of the novel coronavirus epidemic is a biological warfare weapon, yet another question concerns whether the attack germ is genetically engineered to target a specific ethnic group. Drawing on his observations of U.S. biological research in some of the former republics of the Soviet Union, Nikulin remarked, the supposedly Pentagon-funded U.S. laboratories in Eurasia have been collecting and treating genetic material from Russian and Chinese populations to allegedly create an ethnically specific virus that only targets certain people. Now, that sounds crazy, right? But think about the Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, or MERS. That really did target mostly Middle Eastern type people. This is something that you can Google and you can look into, and it goes way back, that engineering of biological weaponry with what we know on DNA sequencing and the technology that they have, they can literally make bugs or viruses that will attack one ethnic group more so than the other. So that is not just some woo-woo conspiracy, that's fact. So this is starting to think, ooh, wow, this starts to make a little bit of sense. Espos added that Nikulin's observations are consistent with the position of Russian military expert Viktor Baranets. Baranets has affirmed that biological warfare has become a new weapon in the American fight for global supremacy against its main adversaries. There is much evidence to indicate that one of the main thrusts of genetic research in biological warfare has long involved efforts to target specific ethnic groups for sickness and death. There are obvious reasons why those engaged in the development of biological weaponry would want to narrow their aim to an envisioned enemies rather than breed germs to kill indiscriminately all humans in the path, whether friend or foe. Lance Welton covers some supposedly unmentionable yet nevertheless contested topics in an article entitled Asians Far More Susceptible to Coronavirus Than Other Races, More Likely to Die. Asians are far more susceptible to coronavirus than other races and are more likely to die. It's a better way to read that sentence. Wilton leaves aside the question of why it is that the COVID-19 seems to pack a much more virulent and lethal punch when it comes to the targeting of people sharing Chinese Asian ancestry. Read that again. Welton leaves aside the question of why it is that the COVID-19 seems to pack a much more virulent and lethal punch when it comes to the targeting of people sharing Chinese and Asian ancestry. The other side of the same coin is people of predominantly European ancestry seem statistically to be much less at risk when it comes to succumbing to the epidemiological force of the COVID-19. All right, let me highlight right here. I'm going to stop there for this episode, and then I'm going to start again, probably tonight, hopefully tonight, and do one or two more. Again, please watch them all in sequence. Please read the article and start thinking outside the box on this, because we're not being told the truth by the mainstream. There's just too many coincidentals, which we're going to start getting into some other kind of crazy stuff below here. It gets pretty good. So please tune in again. This is SJG Perspective. I went way longer than the 5 minutes, 8 minutes. I went twice as long as that, but I kind of felt like maybe we needed a little bit longer. People can hang out for 14 minutes. Put it on double time speed and you'll be good. All right, until next time, it's SJG Perspective. We'll talk to you soon, and we'll without fear or animus. Okay, bye. That's completely a terrible exit on my part.